Welcome to Insuchtlingwikatl. This is a podcast about poetic thinking where we share with you a different perspective of the social world. Every episode, we take a topic or a concept and we use the lens of philosophy, psychology, mythology, and art to analyze the wonderful horrors of the modern world. We are back from a summer break. It was long. I don't know if it was productive, but it doesn't need to be productive. It was just long, but we're back. And so this is our first fall autumn episode.
Still summer though, no? Because we don't change to autumn until the celebration of the two goddesses, which is the 27th of September.
Which hopefully the episode will be out by then, but we don't know.
Let's do it before so we can still make it summer, the end of summer.
So we are somewhere between the end of summer and the beginning of fall.
That's correct. And in this episode, we will explore the realms of hell, or some corners of it. In Sartre's play No Exit, Garzan, one of the characters, exclaims, "Hell is other people." But what is hell? And how is hell made up of others? Is it made up of other people? And which hells do we raise today? My name is Andrea Celeste.
And my name is Andrea Martinez.
During our summer break, we did put on the table a particular subject to investigate, which was the subject of hell. Which hells do we see in our contemporary world, as well as where does the concept come from? And investigating the subject, we stumbled upon Hell is Other People, which will be the main course of this episode. Before we will touch a little bit of the history of the concept of hell. So please don't be very exquisite.
Of course, the topic of hell is extremely vast, and we can do an entire series or an entire podcast series on the ways that hell has been addressed. But we were more interested, like Andrea is saying, on how do we create our own hells, and basically in modern life, where modern life, and by modern life I don't really mean modernity in the philosophical sense, but post-pandemic, right? Like what or post-pandemic, middle of the pandemic, whatever, have we created, and how do we think of, and not even post-pandemic, because a lot of these trends began way before that. We have started to see each other as hellish, as nightmarish, as impossible to deal with, as torturing, right? In the sense of hell as something that is punishing to experience. It's torture. And so thinking about this, that's how we thought, well, then hell is other people, as Sartre said. However, before we get to the story behind hell is other people and Sartre and the play No Exit, we want to first establish that there are other hells that are not hells in the sense that we understand hell. So before we get to the hell as other people, we want to say that hell doesn't have to be hell. And of course, the first example, or not of course, but one of the main examples has to be an example from Mexico. So in Mexica culture, when people die, they go to Mictlan, the land of the dead, and the god there is called Mictlantecutli. And it's a journey that people embark on once they die. And there's a few things that are quite interesting about that journey. First of all, Mictlan is the land of the dead, but that doesn't mean it's hell. It just means this is where you're going. And it depends not on what you did in life, where you go, but it depends on how you died. So if you died in war, or if you died, I believe, giving birth,
or drowned,
you go to different lands. You go to Tlaloc. But if you die a normal death, then you're going to Mictlan. And there are 9 lands that you need to cross, and in order for you to cross them, you need a dog. The dog first is going to take
The
you
sicker
across.
pump.
It's going to take you across the river. And so when they buried people in ancient Mexica culture, they would dig the tomb, and they would give you your dog, your dead dog, of course, and certain other things. They would give you something to cover yourself, because you're going to also go through the land of the wind, and it's going to be
some cacao seeds too, no, or something like this.
Possibly. I don't remember all of the requirements for every of the steps. One of the things I remember is that you need something to cover yourself, because the wind is piercing. It's so strong that it's piercing. And so this journey takes 4 years. So for 4 years, the family of the dead person, it's funny because we have, of course, already talked a lot about death in our previous episodes. We keep returning to the same themes, but the family of that person has to continue to do the rites for 4 years until the person has arrived to Mictlan. So in this way,
everybody's bound to each other.
Yes, as we are. And so this is one of the examples where the hell or the inferno is not seen as something that punishes, but is more like it's a journey. It's not defined by your actions. It's not like this is not what you deserve.
It's not it's not a condemnation.
It's not a condemnation. It's not like what you get. This is not what you get because you whatever, had an abortion or lied to some people or committed fraud or whatever. Like, it's just, this is what happens if you die naturally.
There are also the Elysian fields where heroes and other very special gifted mortals end up going. And I'm just going to name drop some of the mythological folk of Greece that go up and down, which are Orpheus, Heracles, Persephone, Theseus, and of course Dionysus. And also the dog is an archetype as the snake, as the rat, for the psychopomp, which is this particular divine character that can travel
back and forth
with no problem, right? All around the world, in our cultures, in human culture, we find this constant. And and getting closer to hellish other people, or to what I wrote in my notes that I don't know where I read it, but I enjoyed it, which is hell and harm, the relationship between hell and the harmful, is the myth of Inanna, which she is Mesopotamian goddess, Persian Mesopotamian goddess, of course related to Ishtar. She's another version of Ishtar, which is the goddess of love. Goddess of love and war. She's a little bit more primitive than, for instance, the Greek goddesses, where love and war are now separate. And that is part of the problem in the Trojan War, which is all of these war gods asking Zeus, what is Aphrodite doing? And what many academics say is that because Aphrodite does hold in her archetype, in the love goddess, holds also in the archetype the problem of war through earlier goddesses such as Inanna. So Inanna is this typical goddess of agriculture or related to agriculture that she will sacrifice her husband every some time that has to do with vegetation, etc. But during her marriage to one of her husbands, which is Dimisu,
Sorry, what is
yes,
the animal? Sorry, what is the animal that eats the husband? Like not the husband, but like
the
the
mate,
male,
the
the mate.
sexual mate.
Is it the spiders? Don't spiders eat
Yeah, the
their
Black Widow.
the black widow is
The
like
Black Widow.
sorry, I just thought about the sacrifice of like the
Mhm.
husband, like the
Or the mantis when she's in captivity.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um,
Well, but yes.
but
So
I've
like,
learned from David Attenborough.
so in her marriage to Dimisu, she travels to the underworld, to hell, because she wants to kill and supplant her sister, which is the goddess of the dead. I'm very interested in this theme as well because it has the problem of supplantation through your siblings or your peers, but we will get into that some
You mean like
other
replacing,
yeah,
replacing?
replacing. Yeah. Anyway, well, going through hell as going to the Mictlan, as any hell, it's a journey. It's a big journey, and if you're not a psychopomp, it's not going to be an easy journey. And if you're not dead, it's not going to be an easy journey either. So she gets into hell completely naked, which means she has lost all her power because of the journey. Like the journey had so many perils that she lost all her power. She gets there completely naked in front of her sister, which as a kid sister must be very humiliating if you want to, take control of your sister's kingdom and then just get to her doorstep completely naked and ashamed. Anyway, love and fertility cannot defeat death. This is sort of the morale of the myth. So when the love goddess wants to go back to earth and just keep loving and whatever, just keep loving and making more offspring, the 7 judges, which are the Anunnaki, ask, who descends to hell may leave it without harm. So what I like about this is this is one of the first moments in hell history where it's linked with some kind of payback. If you can't come here without giving some kind of payback because you came here. Mm-hmm. So there's a kind of harm by coming into hell. Whether you died and you're here because you're condemned, which is, we will get to this in a little bit, which is Christian hell. Or like this goddess, which is, you are not supposed to be here. You're the goddess of life, sex, fertility, love, whatever. What are you doing trying to conquer death? Do you think you can just do this? You can't.
I think that like, I mean, that whole thing between love and death is, like, of course it's a myth, but of course, because it's a myth, it's so extremely relevant that, yeah, like, I mean, so love can conquer a lot of things, but it cannot conquer death.
That is the Western passion. Yes. Exactly. Like can love conquer death? Well, no, but some of the Westerners might still say, well, you don't know, it's still a mystery. I will take no sides.
This thing that you talked about, you cannot leave. You can leave hell with no harm, without harm. Mm-hmm. Not leave hell without harm. I mean, in a more Western, of course, fashion, more towards where we're going, of the hell of condemnation, and also existentialism in Sartre. There's a new movie that hopefully you all have the opportunity to watch. Leo Carax, he made Holy Mothers and The Lovers of Point Neuf. Two of his famous films, and the new one is with Mr. Adam Driver.
Oh, it's the movie that you went to see at the movie?
Adam Driver.
Ooh, Adam Driver.
And Marion Cotillard.
Oh, really?
I'm butchering her last name. I apologize. And the movie's name is Annette. I won't tell you much about the plot, but I will tell you that one of the main themes in the movie is the abyss, and of course Leo Carax is French, and of course he's like referring to French existentialism, which some of you might not find particularly enticing. And of course I also have my strong criticism against Sartre's interpretation of hell and no exit and whatever, and I will talk about that in a minute. But one of the themes is you cannot stare at the abyss without being marked by the abyss, and that's when you watch the movie, you should think about that. You cannot think about that image. You cannot stare at the abyss without being marked.
Well, the payback, you can't. It's
The
this is
payback
kind of,
is a lot, like, I mean, both things, both metaphors are very
and I think I'm using it wrong. I'm using it wrong. The concept payback, because what I mean is this actually is what the sort of what the Greeks also called miasma, which is the problem of trying to go too far, which is kind of what is going to hell without being invited to hell. For instance, you can't be in the presence of something that is way bigger than you, or that transcends, like this, am I making sense, like this bigger than yourself thing, or not being called for by that that is bigger. You will have to, be marked, pay.
You can also think about this in terms of the first season of Black Mirror, where we have Gleason's son is a beautiful actor as well, Irish actor, and his wife, and he dies in this episode, and the wife somehow manages to use whatever technology to bring him back.
Oh yeah. Oh, those robots
and then
are cool.
you can't bring somebody back without bringing the whole thing, or
Is the Babadook.
Is part of the Babadook back with you, right? So if you're familiar with this episode, you'll know how weird it is, like the fact that he's back alive, but at the same time,
And actually, for me, that episode brought to the table the problem of love and death again, and how when you
cannot conquer death.
It's kind of uncanny. Yeah, it's kind of uncanny, because no, it's there's this. Well, there's this judgment, or I had this judgment all the time, which was how dangerous can it be to, get too much
attached to a person.
Yeah, attached, because I kept thinking, sitting in my sofa, it's not him, this with this, because but I am, well, it's not. It's just this uncanny thing that wants to conquer death.
Yes.
Like the Babadook.
So going back to the this idea that you can't go to the fully unknown, or to this kind of like beyond limits places without coming back with some remnant or kind of scarred in some way from it. Will we move on to hell as condemnation?
Yeah, I will just want to just point out that as hell will start to polarize itself more towards condemnation, and although we do find the origins of being scarred, like way with the Persians, it's also a place of initiation and of being cured. For instance, as Orpheus leaves hell pretty scarred, because he has to leave his love there. But for instance, Heracles is taken there to cure his madness of killing his wife and children. But we will, as we move towards our time, or as the world becomes more Christianized, what will win is the notion of hell as condemnation. So yes, let's move to City of God and Saint Augustine.
Okay.
Well, what I find interesting in Saint Augustine's City of God regarding hell is his, and I think it's very revolutionary, is for Middle Ages, is how the soul and the body are linked. for him, there is no way you can unlink the soul and the body. And in this way, body is as eternal as the soul, and through the body it feels, whether it is the basking of oneself in God's presence, or the torments, the fiery torments of hell. So I will read an excerpt of, this is book 21, chapter 1. The title of the chapter is "Of the Order of the Discussion which requires what we first speak of, the eternal punishment of the lost in company with the devil, and then of the eternal happiness of the saints." So Saint Augustine says, "I propose, with such ability as God may grant me, to discuss in this book more thoroughly the nature of punishment. Because the body partakes of either destiny, and it seems to be more incredible that bodies endure in everlasting torments." So here what we have with Saint Augustine is the fact that we are going to be punished through our bodies forever. There is that punishment is bodily, which reminds me of Foucault in terms of punishment as well, because
but mainly, I mean, and we're not gonna in any way expand on this, because we said, this is more like a kind of like exploration rather than an in-depth analysis. But of course you have all this kind of bodily tortures in Dante's Inferno, in the nine circles of hell, and all the horrible things that happen to the
and
sinners.
the description, because we had no TV back then, so the most read pamphlet, or I don't know, I'm sorry if I am massacring language, but the most read thing in Middle Ages was linked with how the saints were martyred and killed. Mm-hmm. So this description of gore is, embedded in our liking. We've talked about this in our previous episodes, and how complex we are in these ways, and how we want to hear terrible stories as the night comes closer.
And just to bring that a bit closer to our 21st pandemic century, there are all these stories now that I call vaccine porn, which is in the New York Times and the Washington Post, and all the people that did not take the vaccine and then got COVID, and then in their deathbeds they're saying, "Please tell my daughter to take the vaccine." We kind of love this type of stories,
it is,
right?
vaccine. It is pornography. That's pornography.
It's vaccine porn, but it's also this okay, we want to know more. We want to know, oh my God, did she have one child? Oh, maybe she had 3 children. Oh, maybe the more dramatic it is, the more kind of
just as the anti-vaxxers have their porn as well, because it's this thing,
got vaccinated, fully vaccinated,
and now he has 3 heads. So it's but that's
nobody has 3 heads, but
that's one case in a million. But that case is enough to make the headline.
Okay, if anybody has 3 heads after your full vaccination, please let us know.
Being the year 2021, we can say with or without complaint that Christianity it has been victorious in many, many, many ways, including this imagery of hell. For Christianity, through Saint Augustine as one of the main protagonists in hellish literature, but not only that, as well as Dante, the main symbol, or I think the main thing that matters to Christianity is that hell is a place without God. And in that way, there is no possibility of redemption, of change, of order. There might be order in your punishment in terms of, what time you get your punishment, or what is the order of your punishment, but there is no cosmos,
No end to your punishment, and that your body will suffer, infinite times forever and ever, over and over again.
And there's not a progression, there's not a second, so there's no second anything. So you just, this is it forever, your condemnation. There is no way you can get out as long as you, this is why hell is a cautionary tale as well for Christianity, because it's, if you do something wrong in your life, you might go and burn in hell. So you must maintain a certain ethos and, cleanse yourself and be
good, just be good.
Yeah, be good.
But then, of course, we have and of course, although Sartre continues to follow this like hell as condemnation, we have some other alternative views already in the West, with William Blake, an English poet who wrote The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, amongst other beautiful things, which was published in 1790. And The Marriage of Heaven and Hell is written as a response to a priest that strongly believes in the dichotomy, the polarity between heaven and hell. Hell is for bad people, heaven is for good people. And William Blake, in a rather revolutionary way, unusual, uncommon for his time, says no, there cannot be hell without heaven. There cannot be opposites without each other. And so there, it's a short text. It's maybe 30 pages, including his own drawings that he made with all of his texts. And one of the parts of this writing, it's called Proverbs of Hell, where he tries to not imitate, but resemble the same thing of the Bible.
No, imitate is correct.
The biblical writings, right? So we have very famous.
Well, I would say sort of Solomonic. They're aphorisms, so right. Which are very common in the dawn of philosophy and religion, which is just this sapient words that,
right.
I
mean, so just to restate, his main thesis here is to say, no, you're wrong. Everything is united, and there cannot be evil without good, and there cannot be black without white, and there cannot be opposites without the other thing. And we have the one of his most famous lines, which is, the road of excess leads to the
palace
of wisdom. So again, it's a response to this kind of more moralistic, sanctimonious attitude that's more, how do you call it? Not agnostic.
Yeah, he's a mystic. He's the last mystic. He's one of them. He's a mystic. Yes, no more Gnostic.
Right. And I'm just going to say a few more verses that I really like. The pride of the peacock, the pride of the peacock is the glory of God. The lust of the goat is the bounty of God. The wrath of the lion is the wisdom of God. The nakedness of the woman is the work of God. Excess of sorrow laughs, excess of joy weeps. The tigers of wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. So
there's one that I really enjoy, which I can definitely link to Hellish other people, which is, he who has suffered your will knows you, or something like this.
Okay.
Which I find perfect, because yes, he who has suffered your will knows you.
Yes. Who was the musician? Was it Billy Corgan, who used to really like William Blake, or was that just you?
Both. No, both, definitely. Both Billy Corgan and myself. I would have to say that against William Blake, which I am rarely against William Blake, but I am in the sense that Well, he does underline the fact that things like hell or good and evil, etc., are more intertwined than what this Christian religion wants us to believe. But he is also one of the main bricks in the symbolic construction of the eternal feminine, of that, the nakedness of the woman is God's work of art. I get where he's coming from, which is he wants to de-satanize women, but at the same time, he's just doing the opposition, which is siding with the fact that
she's a saint ish.
Well, ish, or with the problem of just the whole history of pictorial art in Europe, which is women don't own their nudity.
Right.
It's the work of God.
Right. Yeah.
And to be nude for a woman is to be nude symbolically.
Adam Driver is kind of nude in the new Leo Carax movie, just so you know.
All his 8 feet,
and he's the work of God.
How tall is he?
His body is the work of God. Anyway, so getting to the title of our episode, Kelly's Other People, which again I don't want to because and this is exactly what Sartre is getting at, which is kind of funny. I don't want anybody to think that I'm a Sartrean or that that I agree with his philosophy. I think this is very we try to come up with titles for our episodes that are catchy, that can inspire discussion, and that you can see often in this kind of inspirational quotes online on Facebook or whatever. So although there are aspects of his philosophy that are interesting, there are also a lot of aspects that are criticizable. So I'm going there. But before I go there, let's just say what is No Exit about. So No Exit is a play that was written in order to bring to life or express or depict the concepts that he that are part of his main work, philosophical work, which is being and nothingness. So we have concepts like bad faith, authenticity, the gaze, otherness. I'm not going to go into the concepts of being and nothingness because that's not the point of today. And then we have three main characters who he wrote this play for three of his friends, and at no point can these characters leave the stage. So we have Ines and Estelle as the women, and Garcon.
We think it's Garcon. Just go with it.
Or Garcine, Garcon. I don't know. And so Garcon is the first one to arrive, and then the point of the play is that they cannot leave this room where they're in, and
the valet explains, which is typical of dramatic theory, which is someone that is not like the bellboy, like the guard, the messenger gives you the setting and the order of things, which is you can go out, you can ring the bell, but the bell doesn't really work, so I might come or I might not come. Mm-hmm. And this is it. No, you are here.
And this is where you'll be. And so they quickly find out, Garcon and Estelle, that they do not know each other. They've never met each other. There's
no link between them.
There's no link between them. And that this is not the hell that they envisioned. That they envisioned a hell where they would find somebody that they made suffer, or that suffered or that knows them because of their will, as Andrea was saying. But
actually that is actually one of the first revelations, mm-hmm. because before, what they are really surprised by is that it's just this bourgeois place.
Where are my torturers? Where is my torture?
There's no actual flame. So that's the first surprise. Sartre will end up siding with condemnation in a way, and torture, but in a more symbolic way.
So of course, I'll just say that the sins of each of these characters. So just very quickly, if you haven't read the play, you can read it or read a synopsis or whatever. But Garcon is a pacifist, but he's a coward. He's a hypocrite. He's a cheater. He's made his wife suffer. Inez runs away with her lover and gets pregnant and
No, that's Estelle. Ines is the postal clerk.
all right.
Estelle runs with her lover, gets pregnant, gets an abortion. You can't get abortions in 1944.
No, she kills the baby. She drops the baby in the river.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
In the river.
In the river.
And Inez.
She's a baby killer.
She's a baby killer. And it's funny because we have two interesting Catholic sins, right? Abortion or the killing of a baby, and then the other one is she destroys a marriage because she's in love with the woman and the woman leaves the man, and what
so you have
and lives and has a proper affair with Ines, I believe. And then that was the character, and so she's a lesbian basically, which is like another condemned act in the Catholic Church, homosexuality.
And being a coward is also considered a sin in right. Christian, and because cheater, that's why
adultery
and a cheater, all of the things he actually is are all, which is also funny, and it's part of the irony in Sartre, because in the end these are all things that we condemned in inheritance of our Christianity.
Right. And to finish up with the sins, the woman that leaves the husband for Inez, Inez turns out to be this despicable woman. She says, I'm rotten because she makes her lover suffer. There's no day that goes by without her telling her something about, oh, we killed him, Oh, because the husband, the former husband, kills himself, and then of course eventually the lover, the woman, wakes up one night, lets the gas on or leaves the gas on, and they both die. So that's kind of like their three sins where they're together or where they're in hell. And then just to jump to the end and to the most famous line in the play, Garcon says, well, of course, these are torture. Hell is other people.
Right. They know it. It's very interesting because we do know it from the get-go. Like they right. do ask like, where are torturers? And it unravels pretty quickly the fact that, because the problem is Estelle is of course completely drawn to Garcon in this very traditional feminine as a woman-man role,
seducing him.
Yes, seducing him, and the lesbian is just completely desperate.
No, I'll take away your pain. You will be able to see yourself through me. And then the Garcon at some point wants to ignore them both, but they're like, so there's this constant absence of otherness, this constant presence, this constant presence of the other. And this is one of the central aspects again. Well, so this is the part that is interesting. So I'll start with the part that is not interesting. The part that is not interesting is that Sartre is very much about whether you're authentic or in bad faith. And we have the famous example of the waiter that just pretends to be an excellent waiter, but he lives in bad faith. These characters lived in bad faith and in authentic life. When they were alive, and now they are being a cheater or having an affair or whatnot. This is interpreted as inauthentic, right? So that's
but not being a cheater, just not accepting that you're a cheater or a coward,
right?
Yeah, I would say, because he really wants to shake morale off him. And I would say that one of the most important things for me in the sense of hell is other people because these two people know things that I know now. Mm-hmm. There is no place up for the private. They know what I think of me, and I am being, in this case of these three characters, they are actually being their worst judges, not actually the other, but themselves.
Well, I would argue actually that this has, so first of all, I would say that I would side with our last episodes with Georg, that we're not always fully authentic, nor we're always fully inauthentic, that we're in a constant state of performance, and therefore and in this way, this kind of Butlerian conception of what it is to be a social self, which is to be performing. So, but anyway, beyond that is that the gaze of the other defines who we are, so not only in life but in death. So first of all, we have all these moments in the play where they are kind of experiencing what is happening still in the living world, and where people are waiting for them, waiting for Garsan, his wife, or talking about him in the office. And so this immovable opinion of the other about us once we die, but also the opinion of the other of us, are constantly subjected to the, like, as you said, it's my opinion of myself, but also the opinion that others have of me. And that is what is hell, because there is only a certain amount of that opinion, if any, that I can control.
Well, that's another Black Mirror episode, which is the one, I think it's season 1 or 2, I don't remember. I haven't watched Black Mirror in a long time. The Facebook one. I mean, it's not
season
Facebook.
1. I think it's season 1.
But it's like this woman that is constantly being very careful of her second order observation, and
Hello, Lumen.
but not being able to control it that much until she takes a good shot, which is linked to being nostalgic, which is very interesting. She sees a picture of like a teddy bear that she had with her childhood friend, which is now this really hot, popular profile. Mm-hmm. So, she just takes a picture of that, uploads it, and that nostalgia triggers the other girl. She invites her to be her handmaid at the wedding, or whatever it is, her bridesmaid. Bridesmaid. And that's just the downfall, because she can't, for whatever reason, she can't hold that. So she's just, and she, the thing is, what's interesting of that episode is that she might be able to, for a little bit, hold it, but then she can't. And the downfall is terrible. She ends up like in this kind of jail. Well, but also being very relieved by screaming at people.
So this is, I mean, of course, we have in the very Sartrean sense, this Black Mirror episode where it's like, I'm performing for the other who observes me, but I'm not being myself. And also we have the Lumanian and also Georg, who was here in the previous episode, more kind of less condemning of the second of the observation of social media. So the pressures of how to profile ourselves so that the other sees us. How am I perceived, like now, like am I perceived as a Sartrean? Am I perceived at work as an idiot? Am I perceived as productive? Am I perceived as bossy? In social media, do people think I'm cool? Do people think of me as a theater person? Do people think of me as an academic? Do people think of me as absent in social media? Do people think of me not only on social media, but because I'm not in social media? Do people perceive me as special? Do people perceive me as revolutionary? Do people perceive me as an outcast? Is that how I want people to perceive me? So second order observation goes further back than social media, and further beyond social media. It's all over, all around us. And now social media, of course, further evidences or reveals this second order observation, and for the same reason, because it's so palpable, it becomes also hellish. And that's when you have documentaries, which I have not seen, but fake famous, right, where like you make people, you know, try to be famous, like, you know, influencers or whatever, and they end up breaking down because it's really hard to be pleasing people all the time. But you know, it's been always hard to be pleasing people all the time, right? That's why, you know, the girl in Black Mirror screams, but she would have screamed also 100 years ago. Maybe she wouldn't have screamed. Maybe she would have, like, you know, drank a bunch of stuff. I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
like, I mean, it's like it goes from Titanic to Britney Spears. I mean, there's this part in Titanic where Rose the Duplicator tells Jack Dawson, "I'm screaming at the top of my lungs and no one looks up."
Right.
In terms of why she wants to kill herself, because she's being surrounded by this hell that makes her be, or condemns her to be in a certain way. And the other, well, it's she's so lucky, she's so star, but she cry or how
Yeah,
goes
yeah, yeah.
how goes
What is it?
Britney's,
This, yeah.
but she
What's the name of that song?
lucky,
Lucky. Yeah.
which is, it's
But
like,
I mean, of course, the social media, and if you watch, look, I've been going through the social media profiles of Britney Spears and Madonna, and the exponential growth of what Georg calls the general peer, right? Like of that who observes you, and you can quickly see the damage, or I mean, it's not like the damage is just about social media, but social media really uh it's really
exposes it.
visible, exposes
Yeah.
it, exposes it. It's so, you know, it doesn't take very long. Just check out Britney Spears Instagram profile or Madonna's profile and you'll see what I'm talking about. But at the same time, uh the gaze of the other, I would say, and this is where I disagree with Sartre, the gaze of the other is not necessary for me to become a hell of my own making, because if we are completely isolated, we are also in hell.
But I don't think, again, I think Sartre always gets radicalized in a way. I mean, well, what else are they going to talk about if not hell, since they are in hell? So of course the conclusion in a play about hell is going to be about hell. I don't, I don't think he means as an absolute experience
Of course.
in life, but it is true. I mean, and linked to the to his problem of authenticity, it has to do with that, because people don't allow you to be authentic sometimes. This is the problem of grandmothers. Like, it's, I want to do this to my hair, want to get a tattoo, and if you live in a very traditional Mexican household, your abuelita is going to say, what did you do to yourself? And that's going to be a problem, and you can't decide
You
what
don't have
you
to go
do
too
with your own
far.
body.
My mother stopped talking to me recently because I got another tattoo, and she was like, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And she sent me a text on Facebook saying, I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
So in
Because
that way, I mean,
I was
in
like,
that way,
she was
hell
like,
is other people.
I was like, I've gotten like about 9 tattoos. This is like the eighth or the ninth. I can't remember exactly. So I was like, this never worked for you before. What do you think is going to work for you now? But, you know, yet again, and just let me give one more example, more scientific, other than my mother. Um, is that
Which is a doctor, so it's science enough there,
science enough, but like she's a
or
Mexican.
enough science.
But anyway, so researching this topic, I came across study of organizational psychology in Germany, which surveyed 70,000 employees of different areas, and it turns out that those employees who have to deal with conflictual situations with others are more likely to experience occurrences of depression. So yes, hell is other people. And basically what the study explains is that, well, and this is actually mostly or more commonly women, not men, And you can have the theories that you want about why it's mostly women than men, or maybe there's more women in these occupations than men, or maybe women have a harder time or process these things more personally. We don't know. But it's occupations that require this kind of social emotional resources, right, that require you to regulate emotion, to regulate your expressiveness, to calculate how you're going to talk to the other without being like a complete asshole, basically. And so that is like it's significant.
Hellish. That's hellish.
Yeah, so that is seemingly hellish. So yes, but however,
Because
tell me.
yes, no, you go ahead.
That one when Sartre was interviewed about his line "hellish other people," he was actually like, "Well, I've been misinterpreted. I don't mean hellish other people. I mean that we understand ourselves through others, and others understand themselves through ourselves, and that's what I meant." So that's, I mean, okay,
and that is part of hell. That is what I think the play does continue to uphold many of the symbolic of the symbolism that hell has since the beginning of our human whatever, which is it's a place of torment in a way, but it's also a place of self-knowledge,
right?
because it is through the other, whether it is hello cat, whether it is a self-knowledge that will give you hell or not. But just also Sartre is linking knowledge to a hellish experience, because what existentialism brings to the table is you are responsible for your own nausea. If it is, you get nauseous with this experience of life, which is also, I would actually add that more than being, or wanting to present hell as hell, he also is marking hell as quite mundane, because
Right.
like what you just said, like,
Yeah,
people quite mundane, and in that way is why going to the bank something is hellish.
the bank.
All of this bureaucratic thing,
But not
processes that
only,
you
like basically every single, like not every single, but a lot of the interactions that we have nowadays, sorry, not every single interaction, but a lot of the interactions. So I've experienced this recently, not hell, but like this kind of like hellish circumstances going back to work now that lockdown is over in Ireland. And you can see, I would be honest, I haven't felt the hell of others just. Oh no, I have felt it. Of course you feel it. I'm lying. But I can also see how others experience each other as hell in the same classroom where I teach. Right? And they're like, you can see people react to one another like
you can see them in torment. You can sometimes know if you are the torment.
And of course, and sometimes people like being the torment. And you see this in social media and Twitter all the time, especially now with the rise of this dichotomy of anti-vaxxers versus people that are for the vaccine, and like people that are Fauci or whatever science prone. They're like, or we support science, or we've been vaccinated or whatever. We're like, oh, these fucking anti-vaxxers are hell. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse. Did we curse in the podcast before? Of course we did. Anyway, whatever. And the anti-vaxxers are like whatever this, or it you can put in any context, the Met Gala, the the Democrats, the Republicans, the am lovers, whatever, like they are all trying to torment each other.
Trying to go. Well, apparently the only way to get the other's attention is through torment as well.
Exactly. That is the part that is so like.
Well, when the part in the play where the door actually opens, there's like Andrea said, like this, the characters don't leave the scene, they can't, and the door won't open, and there's no windows, and there's never darkness, and they can't sleep, and they can't rest, and they're just there with them,
not blinking,
and not blinking. And suddenly there's this like very passionate moment in the play where they start, yelling at each other or whatever, and open the door, and then the door actually opens, and then now of course they're have the dilemma of, what if we go out? And of course they don't go out,
Of course,
which is also part of the mundanity of this whole thing, which is what has happened. I mean, to me, in certain jobs, or when I was studying my first career, I remember sometimes that was hell, going through that. And I remember saying, well, why can't I just leave? I could leave. I could tell my parents, and I never did, which is something that also happens like in class with my students. We've also had this conversation, which is like, I don't agree with it. And I say, well, there's some stuff that every institution can change and should change in order to conserve itself. If it should be, conserved, some things shouldn't be conserved anyway, but you can't change everything. So you either deal with that, or you can, but if you're so mad with the institution, with the system, whatever, well, leave.
Yeah.
And we never leave the system.
Yeah. If the student doesn't do their homework and they're on the phone, and I'm like, you paid for this course, you're free to leave, right? Like, I mean, we're better off without you. I don't say it like that exactly, but slightly more polite. I'm like, you're free to go. You're marked present. Go. They don't go. Right? But
do they want to torment you? That would be one of the questions.
Well, I don't know. It's just, I think the same in like Sartre's No Exit, right? They're like, oh no, I won't go. But it's the same as like,
yeah, because it's almost like they're not even, they are the other's torment, but they're not trying to. I mean, in a part of the play, they try.
I don't know.
They try. No, but for instance, with the students, for instance, like, they don't leave not because they want to torment you, but because of the same reason why the characters in No Exit actually don't leave, because to be confronted with whatever, you'll just continue in the cycle that you're in. You won't.
And that is exactly one of the points that Sartre also makes, that is like, not only are they trapped in hell, but in real life, we're trapped in our own habits that are like our own like ways, right, that we can't get out of. Which I would argue that Freud would agree. So moving forward from Sartre to the 1990s, and one of her favorite women who liked talking about her own health, we have one of Fiona Apple's songs called Sleep to Dream.
Of her debut, right? It's title. It's in the title album.
The first album is called Title. She was 18 years old when she recorded it.
She's our Billie Eilish, kids. That's who she is.
I don't want to talk about Billie Eilish.
Well, whatever, but I mean, she's the 18-year-old.
Sometimes tortures me.
She's the 18-year-old. Fiona Apple is the 18-year-old.
Of course.
Generation.
No, I'm just joking. Billie Eilish, although I do find her a bit torturing. But anyway, so in one of her songs, she says, "You say love is a hell you cannot bear," and of course, in this sense, love as the relationship to the other. And I say, "Give me mine back and go there for all I care." And then she says, "I got my feet on the ground and I don't go to sleep to dream. You got your head in the clouds and you're not at all what you seem." It's a love song, but hell is coming back. "This mind, this body, and this voice cannot be stifled by your deviant ways. So don't forget what I told you. Don't come around. I've got my own hell to race."
I think she sums it up pretty nicely.
So we all have our own hells to race. So enjoy. We're in such link. Thank you for listening and watching.